Hey everybody, hey look, how bad could it be? It's the weekend. It's the weekend. You know what I'm saying? It's just a weekend. So like, oh, hey, yeah, let's definitely pop up Windows security threats. Gotta get them Windows. Oh my god. Anyway, hey you, calm down. Find the frick and calm it. So yeah. Yeah, this is the infinite regression. This is, typically where bad things happen and I'm like, ha 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 ha, negative and bad. But guess what? Like sometimes you get little reminders. The bad things happen elsewhere as well. And you're like, maybe the infinite regression isn't quite so bad. We'll get into it. Don't you worry. Hey, if you're listening to this one, hey, skip this episode. You don't need this. You didn't need this in your life. It's fine. It's fine. I'll do my thing. But look, first, I'm going to boost up these soundages. I'm going to get these soundages. I'm going to boost them up to the level that I know you going to enjoy. That was some mighty fine picking and singing. Anyway, speaking of mighty fine picking and singing, it is the hillbilly version, the backwoods country version, the bucktooth bib overall with no shirt singing version of this, our theme song, and its vast lyrical complexity. Anyway, prepare yourself. You can't possibly be prepared for this. I know that you try. I appreciate you trying. But there's no way. There is no way. Your mind will explode. Your mind will explode. And the last thing your eyes will see will be bits of gray matter flying against your walls. And I'm sorry for that. I did warn you. I'm afraid I did. Like right now, this is when I warned you. Okay, look, listen, prepare yourself. Look, here's the fun thing. You know how you can like just lop the top off of a human cranium. And just zip zop, cut it off. And yes, indeed. And then you once you get it off, then you do the fun stuff where you can operate on the human brain. Is true. So like, it won't actually hurt, is what I'm telling you, when your brain explodes. No, because I think about these things. No, because it's very normal. Look. Are you going to, am I going to have to explain things to you? Are we going to talk about Phineas Gage tonight? I mean, come on. Just Google it. Phineas Gage. It's fantastic. Anyway, come on, people. Let's listen to this theme song as God intended. And when I say God, you know who I mean. Emmylou Harris. Hey, did this channel go ASMR? Screw that, I hate those videos. Okay, here's the theme song.
This has always been the theme song. This has always been the theme. This has always been the theme song. This has always been the theme.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the power of cha. Yes, the power of cha compels you. Anyway, hey, look, this is Riff and Craft, and I am your host, Rem Pemberton of the Clemson Pembertons. And we're going to play some mining-type craft. We're going to go into multiplayer. We're going to go into Badger World 2.0. We're going to join this server. Oh, hello. What? That's the sound that I'm greeted by. How dare you? How dare you, game? I do not accept this nastiness. Come on. Come on now. All right, hold up real quick. Let me just... I feel like the sound effects of the game are suffering as a result of low levels. Anyway, where am I? 24601? Okay, no, that's who am I? Another day, another destiny. This never-ending road to Calvary. Anyway. So, yeah. What do we got? What do we got? Yes. I find myself having to remind myself what the frick I'm doing in this world when I haven't played it for a bit. You know how that is. You know how that goes. I assume, of course. Don't know that you know, or even that I know. But I thought it very important for me to come on here and just talk, as I do. Not because anything that I say is particularly profound or interest to anyone other than myself is always the way. Things that I say are only interesting to me. And I find myself, honest to God, I'm almost in tears right now, And why? Why? Well, because I find myself wondering, and with good reason, whether or not humanity is worth saving. That should a planet killer asteroid come and smash into the Earth at a tremendous speed and cause an extinction event so rapid that none of us are prepared for it. I wonder if that would be a tragedy anymore. And it's funny because, what am I to say? Well, if humanity were wiped out, before Shakespeare had finished his greatest works, well, what a terrible thing that would have been. I guess, nobody reads them, and if, stodgy old English teachers like me were to force people to read them, those people would roll their eyes and act as if something terrible had happened to them, And also, it's funny because, humanity is flawed and often terrible, and we are often not worthy of the name of humanity because of the great lack of humanity in our very nature at times. We just don't seem worthy of the title humanity because of the various inhumane things that we do. And, I've noticed with my students especially, I would have thought that over the last year and a half, that as we have suffered alone together, and those two words, have really come to mean quite a lot to a lot of people. You would think that some great, vast, shining ray of humanity would come, that people would be more willing to forgive, that people would be more willing to be kind, and to lend a helping hand, and to be generous and wonderful, and all of the things, okay, of course this is going to tie back to Star Trek, because of course it does. Star Trek The Next Generation is, when taken in its entirety, it is an advanced alien race putting the concept of humanity on trial to see whether or not we are worth it, because they see us as a great threat. And it is funny because when providing the defense, Jean-Luc Picard, which that character, played by the incomparable Patrick Stewart, is quite possibly the most worthy of all humans to bear the title human. So very many of us do not and cannot claim it as of right now. And that is, I don't know, it's difficult to think about. But anyway, he quotes, I believe from Hamlet. I don't teach Hamlet, otherwise I'd be able to tell you exactly. It's a quote from Shakespeare. What a thing is man. And the line, when it's delivered in the play, is delivered in jest, sarcastically, a mocking of the very idea that humanity is kind and good in its very nature. Because, play like Hamlet, there is so very little good that comes from humanity. And some of my favorite works of literature are the ones that make me question, what does it mean to be human? And how should we feel about this experience that has been thrust upon all of us without our foreknowledge or consent? We all end up here. We do not know why or what to make of it. But, over time, I think it's a beautiful thing that human lives are short. And because human lives are short, they are quite necessarily... Just start and stop with the water. It's like playing that level in Myst where you're trying to divert water through the pipes. And if your speakers aren't set up properly, then you're going to really mess up. Remember reading the manual for Myst and being like, oh, if I don't set up my speakers correctly, I'm really going to mess this up. Anyway, just in the middle of this discussion of humanity, let's make a reference to old video games nobody gives a crap about. Anyway, so, yeah, Jean-Luc Picard actually gives a defense of humanity about our ability to act in altruistic ways when push comes to shove. We really are a majestic species that is capable of great good because of our ability to reason, because of our ability to consider the needs of others, to act with empathy. And, I have always believed that. And quite frankly, I think that this is one of the great reasons why I am such a fan of Star Trek, is because Gene Roddenberry's vision of humanity was, this is a man in the 1960s who paved the way for the first interracial kiss, and on television. And, William Shatner ran a sneaky trick. There's a great, you could watch the Drunk History episode, and that might be the preferred way of hearing the story of the first interracial kiss on television. Anyway, great story. And I think of Gene Roddenberry as a man, as a visionary, not because he created this science fiction world, but because within his science fiction world, he created this great commentary on the human condition. And, those who know, those who are nerdy enough to take part in the world of Star Trek, what do we know that you don't know? Well, we know that there's a much deeper philosophy, which, by the way, is why the Star Trek movies, the new ones, the ones with the young Kirk and the sexy Uhura, as if we didn't already have the sexiest of Uhuras. She did a fan dance, ladies and gentlemen. She needs no sexying up. She is quite good enough as she stands. Anyway, but for real, the great thing about Star Trek is that the show believes in the ability of humans to overcome in the face of tremendous odds. And the interesting thing is that I believe that. I believe in the ability of humans to overcome in the face of tremendous odds, but unfortunately, I'm losing my faith in the ability of humans to get along with humans. Like, that may be the final frontier, and honestly, one of the things that is beautiful about Star Trek is that, somehow from the, least technological Kalahari Bushman to the most advanced, probably, citizen of a Scandinavian country. Which, weird that there aren't more Scandinavians on Star Trek. Perhaps an oversight. Well, there's enough white people on there anyway. I mean, but the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, that they have figured out a way. The humanity in Gene Roddenberry's very hopeful future is that humanity has figured out a way to create a global government, not an oppressive, top-down, dictatorial, you must do as we say government, but something that is truly representative of the people, and that is fascinating. The very idea of that being a possibility is fascinating, because the only other places you see science fiction stories with one world government are in dystopias. It's a Brave New World situation. Everyone take your soma. And, the only people who aren't living under the iron grip of this, dictatorial government are viewed as savages, What? Hold up. I need to check on something. I think I heard the sound of a cat puking in the background, and I hope not, but I fear that I have. Hold on. Oh, we are all very lucky, ladies and gentlemen. There was no cat puke. Oh, thank goodness. Anyway, back at it. So yes, the idea in Gene Roddenberry's future was of a world government that was not oppressive, and when you see world governments in other fiction, which is always some form of science fiction, it's always this very oppressive dystopian cautionary tale, like, oh no, don't have one world government. But Gene Roddenberry was brave enough to imagine humanity being able to get along. Now, one of the problems that we face, one of the greatest problems that we face in getting humanity to get along, is that some of us have no interest in that. No interest whatsoever. Perhaps because we have a bottom line that is padded by not doing that, or we have other reasons altogether. But quite frankly, it's become very, very disheartening. Especially the way that I see this playing out with my students. Because this year we are back together, we are trying to be as normal as we can possibly be, and I have never, ever, as long as I have been a teacher, I have never seen vitriolic, backbiting, backstabbing, mean, just awful to each other's students. Now, granted, this does not describe all of them. There are many students, and I hate that my focus right now is on one student in particular who treated me, who treated her fellow students with such utter contempt and disregard for our human dignity that I'm, quite frankly, still pissed off at her. And I'm angry that I'm pissed off at her. She does not deserve any portion of my thought over the weekend. None. This is my time to spend as I like. And yet, the fact that she was so pointlessly, needlessly mean and rude, and she's not the only one. She's not the only one. I see these students, and there are so many lovely students. Don't get me wrong. There are so many lovely students, and I really do care for the ones who have been so good and so kind and so wonderful. And I enjoy them. I enjoy them one and all. Do not think that I don't. But what I will tell you is this, we have students, like, okay, let me give you an example, which is typical of what I mean, okay? I told you about the fight that those students got in. I don't know if I've told exactly what happened as a result of all of this, because I did have to go into the office later in the day because the copy machine was broken, and apparently I was wrong to mention this. I thought it was news. Anyway, regardless, we're not going to talk about office politics and whatnot, because that is another issue for another day, really. But what I will tell you is this: I walked into the front office, and there were police officers in there because, of course, two students had assaulted each other, like petty thugs. Not students, not people with an interest in gaining an education, but, it might as well have been fans of rival British soccer teams. It was pure hooliganism. It was pointless and stupid and needlessly brutal, and obviously they intended to hurt each other much worse than they did. And there's something that I do not understand culturally. And perhaps it is because I'm a white man, and perhaps it is because I am an educated man. But the concept of looking at someone wrong, it strikes me as impossible. I did this to my students the other day. I asked them if it were possible to look at someone wrong, and they responded that it was. And so I contorted my face into a more grotesque form than it appears normally, and I challenged them all to a fight. And none of them would take me up on the offer. And I asked them if I was looking at them wrong. You know, am I looking at you wrong in an incorrect way? Is my looking at you wrong not the kind of looking at you wrong? And, you know, there's no solving this. People who believe in the concept of looking at another person wrong are the kind of people who are always going to find an excuse to fight, to use brawn over brains, to use violence over diplomacy. And, you know, I've tried so many things with them. You know, like, here's another one that I've tried. You know, I asked them what they would lose if they were to just be kind to other humans. You know, people with whom they share the planet and share a great number of their genes. People with a common species who have, you know, common objectives in their lives, you know, more that should unite and bind them, and their similarities than should divide them. And I asked them what they would lose if they were kind, and multiple girls, mind you, said, whatever I get from people, I will return it in kind. Of course, they didn't say it that way. I don't know if they would recognize those words. So I don't know if they know what it means to return something in kind. You know, failing of the public school system. Yes, certainly. Blame us. Like, as if it's our fault. I try to bring them knowledge on a daily basis, and they resist it like a baby whose mushed up carrots have not properly been turned into an airplane. Anyway, so yeah, they all said, whatever anyone sends at us, we will return it in kind. And I said, what if you misinterpret what someone is sending at you? And they said, don't worry, we won't. And I said, how do you know that you already haven't? Like, what assurity can you give me that you will not misinterpret the intent of other people and return to them a kind that they never sent you? And they had no adequate response to this, quite frankly, which is not surprising. You know, these are teenagers who barely look beyond the moment. They're freshmen. They are freshmen, which means that they're not human yet. And I know that sounds insulting, but if it sounds insulting to you, you have never taught freshmen. Everyone that I've ever said that to knows what I mean. Every teacher I've ever said that to who teaches freshmen, and I tell them, you can't treat freshmen like humans, right? And they say, right. They know what I mean. You have to treat them like people who will eventually become human, because there's something terrible that happens to not all students. Some of my freshmen, always, there's always a contingent of just delightful, wonderful people that I would like to see in my honors classes someday. and I really hope that I will. Those who, would qualify with their intellect and their general good nature. I mean, good nature is not a qualification to be an honors student, but it doesn't hurt. And certainly I try to encourage it. But one of the things you find is that, and this is going to sound absolutely awful. It's going to sound like we teachers hate your kids. We don't. We're as afraid of them as you are. They are teenagers, and they have you backed into a corner. How do you think we feel when we've got a room full of 30 of them and they all want blood? You really can't treat freshmen the way that you treat upperclassmen. You can treat upperclassmen with, like, I tend to treat my upperclassmen as adults. And I tell them that on the first day. I say, here's how I treat my upperclassmen. I will treat you like adults because, Lord knows, the United States military is here attempting to recruit you. And, if any of you commit a crime, like one of my former students did, you could be tried as an adult. So why don't I just go ahead and treat you like an adult if you promise to treat me like an adult? But more specifically, an adult that you like and respect. How dare you appear on this side but not on my side? Come at me, Broseph. Oh, well. That door only serves one purpose, really, and that is as an eventual gateway to the abandoned mine that lies beyond. And someday I'll hop in there and do some work on that. But I want to open this, not yet abandoned mine up first. Anyway. So, wait, did I really... I don't know what I'm doing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm losing track of my own thoughts as I form them. They're all passing like soap bubbles on a blustery day. Anyway, so yes, the reason why you can't treat freshmen the way that you treat upperclassmen, you can treat upperclassmen like adults, and they will say, well, thank God someone is finally treating me the way that I feel, because, I'm making all of these important decisions. I'm filling out scholarships, and, I've been working a job and getting a paycheck and paying taxes, for crying out loud. And finally, here's someone who's going to treat me like an adult, which is all I've ever wanted. And I remember being a teenager, and I remember wanting adults to take me seriously. And all too often, you just get a tousle of the hair, and you get told, like, oh, buck up, little camper, you'll get there someday. It's not as reassuring as you'd think. Anyway, so I do treat my upperclassmen with a great deal of respect. A respect that they return to me in kind. There is that phrase again. And when I say return to me in kind, I mean return to me in kindness as well. I mean, we had parent-teacher conferences this week, and the number of lovely things that the parents of my honors students said to me, and Lord knows, like, and when I say Lord, I mean Emmylou Harris, of course. When my lovely wife and I go to our children's parent-teacher conferences, we are not there to heap praise upon the teachers, although we do appreciate them because we understand what it is that they do and what it is that they're up against. just about as well as any parent could. Um, and yeah, and I think the fact that when we tell them, like, oh, if you didn't know, we're both over at the high school, you can, all of our phone systems are interconnected, so you can just if ever there's a need to get a hold of me, you don't even need to dial a prefix. You could just dial an extension and it'll ring in my classroom and I'll pick it up. Anyway, so yeah, when we go to our children's sorry, got a bit of a slushy slurry there in my throat. And yeah, sorry if I sound backy away from the microphone there for a second. I'm going to pour myself some delicious orange juice. Juice de l'orange. And I think you'll agree it's a great deal better than milk. Take that, guy who programmed the very popular video game Muck. He has a good YouTube channel. Watch his, not mine. Yes. That is good juice. Anyway, yeah. So when we go to our children's parent-teacher conferences, we're teachers. We know what our children's grades are. We're the ones who hassle our children if they ever forget to turn their homework in, because we know almost immediately they can't slip it past us, at least not for very long. Well, let me be more honest about it. They can't slip it past my lovely wife. Me, they could slip it past a little bit. I will ask them, and if they lie about it, well, that'll get them by for a little bit. But eventually it will catch up with them. Anyway, so, yes. When we go to parent-teacher conferences, we are there for one reason and one reason only. We are there to hear other people tell us how great our children are. Like, that's the deal. You raise good kids. You work hard. You teach them to be good, decent citizens. You hope that they go out into the world and treat others the way that you would like. And then you go to parent-teacher conferences to hear those magical words. Oh, your child is so lovely. Oh, they're just so great in class. I'm so happy to have them, etc., etc. And those are the words that we go to hear. If we wanted to know our child's grade, we could look it up. My wife could look it up on her phone if she needs to. And if we need to get a hold of the teacher, we can do it without dialing a prefix on the phone, or an area code prefix. You could tell I'm an English teacher. Yes, those numbers at the front, the prefix. Anyway, so yeah, we go to hear people tell us how lovely our children are. And, as a teacher of honors students, as well as freshmen, some of whom may be honors students someday, and you will never hear me complain about those children. Anyway, but, I try to provide the service that I myself want as a parent. I try to do my very best to tell these parents that your children are exactly as lovely as you think they are. And that's what parents love to hear. And it's funny because, I had a student come in just this morning, one of my honors students, a lovely human being. And she was saying, couldn't you have said something rotten about me? My mom said you just said the nicest things, and And I'm tired of hearing that my teachers said lovely things about me. I'm like, well, be worse in class, and then maybe we'd have something to talk about. But also, don't do that. And also, I can't tell you to do that because it's against your very nature. So we're at an impasse. Like, I won't tell you to be worse, and you won't be worse because you're already better. So yeah, that's a real problem you face with some of these whippersnappers. Anyway, so yeah, I do have a number of lovely students, and I hate that I dwell on any of them that are not lovely. But I do weep for humanity when I think of some of these students and some of the things they do and some of the things they say and how they view the world and how I routinely fail to break through to them. You know, and not for lack of trying, ladies and gentlemen, not for lack of trying. And I hate to say it, but I will say it. You know, it has been long known in the world of teaching that teachers have a fairly limited scope, much more so than you would think. We can help high-achieving students achieve at a high level. We can help, poorly achieving students to be very frustrated with our classes at times because they want to keep on achieving at a very low level, and we want to encourage them to do better, and they don't like that. And, you know, the interesting thing is that for the most part, and there are exceptions, but those students who are high achieving, their parents teach them to be high achieving and expect them to be high achieving. And it is those two things. It's fantastic parents. And this has been studied, by the way. It is the number one factor in student achievement. Parents, not teachers, not state programs, certainly not anything politicians in Arizona have done to muck up the educational process in recent months and years. Bunch of knuckle-dragging morons. Anyway, a bunch of... I don't want to say the words that are on my mind because they're filthy, they're foul, they will curl the hairs in your ears when you hear them. It'll hurt your brain to process that information were you to hear what I actually think of them. Anyway, yeah. And given what I would like to talk about tonight, perhaps I shouldn't say such things. I am quite possibly the world's worst missionary for my own ideas. Well, they're not my ideas strictly. They are ideas as old as time that I wish to promote that I often fail to observe. But not for lack of trying. Once again, not for lack of trying. Anyway. So, yeah, these lovely students, they are lovely and they are wonderful. And, I do try to provide the service of saying, hello, parent of a wonderful child. You must have worked hard to make this child as wonderful as they are. And sometimes parents will say things like, oh no, they've always been this way. It's them, it's their nature, it's how they are. But we know. You can't slip one past us. We know. We know what wonderful parents look like because we've seen them and we like them and we like to support them in their wonderfulness and we like to support their children in their wonderfulness. Because, that's the most wonderful bit of the whole deal. Okay, I've got way too much deep slate. I'm actually going to throw some away. Like, I really need more andesite, and I'm considering, like, carving up my ceilings and floors just to get it. Which I never do that sort of thing. Certainly not for just blocks. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if the if the cause of all these wonderful children is great parenting, well, then one must take a moment and think about, well, what in the world is the cause of all these students that you'd like to smash in the head with a hammer sometimes, for lack of a better phrase. Anyway, because I don't know that smash in the head with a hammer is quite accurate or appropriate for how I feel about these students. I don't actually wish them physical harm, but if physical harm were to somehow magically make them better, then, I would certainly reread Machiavelli. Anyway, I'm just saying. But yes, so I had so many wonderful parents, wonderful children, say lovely things about me as a teacher, and they're like, oh, my child loves your class. My child is, coming home and talking about the things that are happening in your class. Oh, that is, that is so very wonderful to hear. It is. And not because, I need the boost to my ego. Like, it's just that I'm going to be dead someday, and I would like to know that, I take a tremendous amount of my time trying to fill my head with knowledge, and it's, only a small bit full. I'd like it to be considerably fuller than it is now. But given all of that, these lovely parents who say wonderful things about me, it's always so very telling that the students whose parents you would like to see the most are never the ones who come to parent-teacher conferences. And that actually says a depressingly large amount about those particular parents. Because, it would be one thing, like, I do have some children of teachers and children of, someone, people from the ESS office, people from, speech, etc. I've taught children of these people as well, have some of their children currently. And some of their children are, in fact, these wonderful students that I enjoy so much. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it was so lovely to hear lovely things said about myself when I was there to promote these lovely children. That was a great feeling. That was a wonderful feeling. But then there were the children whose parents I wanted to see to tell them, hey, we are having problems. And those are the parents I will never see. And here's the hilarious thing, is that if I call them on the phone and I say, hey, your child is misbehaving in class, I will get one of two responses, typically. and both of them are, well, no, I'll give you three responses. Because, it's not that the only parents who produce terrible children are bad parents. Like, good parents can produce a terrible child. I've seen it happen, you know. Like, honest to God, I once met the parent of a child that I sometimes wanted to strangle, and the parent, was also a teacher, and they could not have been more lovely. Like, absolutely wonderful. Um, and so, yeah, I do not blame that parent at all, especially because they have other children, and their other children are great. Um, so, this is a small town. You do the math. Figure out, teacher with multiple children, some of whom have taken my class. Narrows it down, but not as much as you'd think. Anyway, the point that I need to arrive at very soon is that I am there to tell them how lovely their children are and not to other way round. And so I have had my victories as a teacher this week, and I should be able to focus on the good. And I don't know, perhaps it's a problem associated with my long-running anxiety and depression, but I do have a well-known, long-standing tendency to give in to fits of pessimism, the likes of which, most people do not, well, first of all, do not enjoy if they have to be around when they're happening, but do not agree with, because they are, in fact, normal people with normal feelings about things, and they see what I have to say about it when I'm in a, fit of pessimism, and they're like, wow, you really think about what I said, the onset of this episode, that if an asteroid were to wipe out all life on this planet as we know it, that I am not certain it would be a tragedy. Think about that for a moment. And then think about anyone you love. And then think about why what I said was absolutely absurd in the face of you having the ability to love anyone. Anyway, I should look at things the other way around. I should be more optimistic. I should be more appreciative of the good that I encounter. And I should use the good to counteract and counterbalance the bad. But, here's a principle of teaching that teachers will be familiar with. And some of the rest of you, I don't know, it may apply to your life as well. We will find out when I tell you what it is. But I have my freshman 4th hour, which is obviously the end of the day for us. We have 90-minute classes, so we only do 4 hours per day. And my freshmen come in at 4th hour every day. And the last hour of the day, and they have to be in there for 90 minutes, and they have to endure rather a lot. And I know for a fact that many of them resent my class and resent having to take it, because I teach a required class that they would not take if they had any choice in the matter, which they don't, and thank goodness they don't, because if left to their own devices, children wouldn't eat their veggies either. But they're fantastically good for them, and they wouldn't read Shakespeare either, but it's fantastically good for their brains. Anyway, that's just how I feel about the matter. Now, obviously, I don't just feed them a diet of Shakespeare. I tried to feed them some Sandra Cisneros, some House on Mango Street, something that they ought to be able to identify with, Hispanic family trying to make it out of poverty, and, the life of the narrator as her family attempts to move on up to the east side, but not as far from the east side as they had hoped. Anyway, regardless, I'm sorry that I'm pointlessly dillying and dallying. We are literally 1 hour in, and I have yet to say anything of substance whatsoever. And if you think that I have, then you must not have been paying attention. Much like my freshman. Anyway. So, exciting times. Sorry, I'm just enjoying all of the sounds and things that I was thinking about, because there is another axolotl over there that I can go catch at some point. I don't have anywhere to put it right now. That's okay. Anywho's it's boom, boom. There we go. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, I was talking about, basically man's inhumanity to man as it presents itself in the freshman English classroom, which perhaps there is no more brutal battleground for the life of the human soul than in the freshman English classroom. And I hate to say it, but the good ones are losing, and they're losing on a perpetual basis, mostly because they're quiet. Now, quietness is not the only good quality a person can have, and certainly not freshmen. I do appreciate a good discussion. I appreciate a good rollicking debate. But when it comes to freshmen, I'll take a couple of kids who know how to shut up any day of the week. And quite frankly, some of my most thoughtful, most high-achieving students are the ones who aren't prone to doing a lot of talking. Now, granted, I also do have some people in there who do a lot of both, getting all their work done and talking a lot of crap. Anyway, so let's talk about these freshmen, and let's talk about some of the disheartening things. I was telling you that that I was trying to sell them on the concept of kindness. They were telling me that, whatever anyone brings to me, I will return to them, which I doubt very much that is true. What I think is actually the case, and what I think actually runs through their mind is, even if you don't hit me, I'll hit you 2 times harder. I'll hit you 2 times harder if I think that you were thinking about hitting me, because I don't want to get hit, and you're the one that's going to get hit. And, one of the ridiculous things about Parker is that we have twice as many people, or twice as many churches as we have people, but no one has read the freaking Bible. I wonder if the pastors of these churches have read the Bible, because their congregants have not. Pastors, if you're listening, have you heard the good news? Because, very much like Thomas Jefferson, there's a lot in the Bible that I could do without, but there's some really, really cracking bits in there, really fantastic stuff worth reading, worth understanding. and not just from a literary perspective. I mean, obviously from a literary perspective, if you want to be able to use your illusion, that's illusion with an A, mon frunde. Anyway, so yes, if you want to be able to get literary illusions, reading the Bible will get you halfway there, and reading Shakespeare will get you the other half. Because the other bit of it is Greek mythology and whatnot, but you have to understand that to be able to read Shakespeare. So it's all in one. And oh no. Anyway, I'm just looking at the sounds. So yeah, discussions with these freshmen have been absolutely disheartening, because I was trying to explain. Wait, some of the bench, I think out of habit, I actually put a bunch of andesite into my furnace and burned it up. Let's go find out if that's true. I think it is. Come on, man. Get it together. I'm really having a rough time here. Comedy. We do comedy on this channel. This is a place where the funny lives. Ha 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 ha. The kind of funny where if you didn't laugh, you'd cry. And who can laugh for all the crying we do? Anyway, so yeah, trying to sell them on the concept of kindness, and they won't buy. They won't buy it. And, one of the things that makes humans so very human is our tendency toward altruism. I mean, one of these girls that wouldn't buy on the concept of kindness wears glasses. Actually, two of them wear glasses. Well, one of them needs to and won't, and the other one does. But yeah, the fact that we allowed both of them to live despite their wildly defective eyes, and that, given time, will probably allow them to procreate as well, pass on their wildly defective genes with their terrible eyesight. Yeah. Humans have this altruistic thing. If we were only concerned about survival of the fittest, then we would have a much more strict definition of what means by fittest. Because, honestly, I don't mean to sound callous and cruel, but a lot of animal species do not allow the cripples and the maimed and the disabled to live. And sorry if I use the term cripples, and it's offensive to anyone. I don't mean it as such, but it probably is offensive, quite honestly. I haven't spent much time around disabled people since college, honestly. I don't know why that is. Anyway, because I don't have them around me here. I don't know why. Anyway, but, we allow disabled people to live. And when I say this, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and as if to say, well, of course we allow them to live. What else would we do? What else indeed? We don't do what other animal species do, which is exactly what you're thinking right now. And yes, it's awful. But we have come to recognize the value in our species of all members of the species, regardless of whether or not they conform to some arbitrary standard of wholeness. And that's good. That's a good thing that we've done. We've developed this society not just because it's fancy and it allows us to have cellular communications. One of the dumbest things we've ever come up with. Ways to mobilize stupidity like we've never done before. If it were used, as it were, in Star Trek, ways to mobilize intelligence as it had never been done before, that would be really something, but that is not the way that it works. I mean, we have so many gadgets that are so similar, gadgets that you see every day that are so similar to the ones that you would see in Star Trek. And, you know what? I am going to mine some of this out. Let's just take some of this business. Because, I need andesite. Wait, is this the andesite or the diorite? Of course, I don't remember. Andesite sounds like a better mineral, but of course it is the ugliest of them all. It's ugly and useless, and I hate it, and I burn it every time I get it. Anyway, but andesite is a cooler sounding name, and so I assume that the good one that I sometimes build my houses out of is andesite and not diorite. Anyway, you can feel about these minerals however you want. But anyway, so yeah, we as a species have not just survived by adapting in such a way that we engage in altruistic behaviors whereby we benefit not only the most fit members of our species, but also the most worthy of our sympathy, of our empathy. These are the ones that we reach out to and that we feel extremely human for reaching out to. The fact that we do anything charitable at all is a great boon to our species. And we feel that way about it. And it is so much a part of what makes us who and what we are. But it's fascinating because when I talk with these freshmen and when I observe their behaviors, what I see in them, and please believe what I think you're going to believe, which is that, this is a phase. By the time they're sophomores, which is ironic, it means you don't know what a sophomore is. A wise fool is literally what a sophomore is. It's basically someone who thinks that they know, but doesn't actually know. That is a sophomore. And perhaps a better etymology to definition ratio has never been achieved by any word in the language. And I know that you do check that ratio for every word in the language, don't you? I mean, I do. Anyway, regardless. So selling freshmen on the concept of altruism is much harder than you think, because they don't necessarily and this is something I hate to say, but freshmen often see kindness, especially from a teacher. They see kindness as a form of weakness that they can exploit. And I am in many ways a very kind person, so that goes very well always. Also, this just in, man invents sarcasm. Anyway, So, yeah, they do, and that is a feature of freshmen. They have a bit of a chip on their shoulder. They had just made it to the top of the totem pole in middle school, and now they've been thrust back down to the bottom. Indeed, they have, and they feel very upset about it. And I understand that. No one wants to go from the top rung to the bottom like that. And so I tell them on the first day, I say, okay, I need your respect in this class. I need your respect more than anything. Because I will not be able to teach unless you can show me basic respect. And I tell them that I understand what it's like to go from the top rung all the way back down to the bottom. And I tell them that, first of all, they're not going to gain any points from anyone by acting out in my class, because it's not as if there's some great board where, all of the students post things about their behavior, and someone sees that a freshman has misbehaved in my class and suddenly their approval rating goes up. That's not a thing that happens. And so it is not something that they need to engage in. They don't need to act out in my class in order to get approval and acceptance, because that's not how you get approval and acceptance. And also, I would prefer that you not act out in my class, because I'm here trying to respect you. And if you act out in my class, then where's the respect? It's all one-sided. That simply will not do. So, yeah, I try to instill this in them on the first day. And it succeeds with some students. And those are the ones that probably would have been that way without the speech. And it fails with many others who are the ones who it would fail with, in the face of any speech by any orator. And so, yeah, this is what I mean. You don't want to treat them as if they were some sort of subhuman species, but they beg you to. And also, if you don't, they will eat you alive. So, yeah, in trying to convince them of the virtues of being good and kind to other humans, they would not accept it. And I started quoting from the Bible, which is hilarious because, I'm quoting to them what should be their own scripture, and they never recognize it. And when I say things like, when they smite you upon the right, when they smite you upon the left cheek, turn to them the right as well. And when a man sues thee at the law for thy cloak, give unto him thy coat also. These things that we know from the Bible, which, the teachings of Jesus that Thomas Jefferson kept in his version of the Bible, of the New Testament anyway. These are the great teachings that need to be had, and they were revolutionary at the time, teaching a form of nonviolence or of anti-violence against those, doing the very opposite of violence to those who are violent to you. And so it is so very fascinating that I don't read these things, I recite them from memory, and they don't recognize them and they don't know what they mean, which is it would be hilarious if it weren't sad. Because I had a student drop my class because, and this is, I was told by a colleague who has some inside knowledge in this case, that it is because, in the words of the student's mother, in our house, Jesus comes first. And the fun thing about that is that this is a woman who, possibly due to the fact that I claimed to be going to hell at one point, which I wasn't even claiming, because I don't see why I should believe in hell, given the fact that it was not a part of Christianity to begin with. As any biblical scholar will tell you, it was the Hellenized Christianity, the Christianity that emerged after it was spread to the Greeks. That is where we get our concepts of hell. Has nothing to do with Christianity in some pure form. That, we don't say things like, oh, I'm going to hell, because that's not something that Jesus seemed to have spent his time concerning himself with at all. As a matter of fact, he was much more concerned with the Roman occupation than he was with people going to heaven or hell. And I'm sorry, but that's a pretty accurate reading of Jesus's teachings from a scholarly standpoint. Now, from a theological standpoint, aka the most boring standpoint, theology is the business of not only wondering how many angels could dance on the head of a pin, but feeling like the answer is very, very important to everyone, and that your version of that answer is the most correct, and that anyone who knows anything about anything ought to agree with you. Yeah, theology. It's all very useful and helpful. Anyway, so yeah, irony of ironies, I've had a student actually leave that class because they believed that I was being, anti-Christian in some way, shape, or form, which is, to me, hilarious. Like, their child will never hear more words of Jesus quoted inside a classroom than in mine, because I often find it valuable to quote from the Bible, because, like I said, you want to use your illusion. We literally just did a unit on illusion, and I told them what I told you. If you really want to know how to understand illusions, then you really need to read the Bible and read Shakespeare. Those two things alone will get you there 90% of the time. Anyway, I told them this, and yet I'm the weird one who's wildly anti-Christian or something. Anyway, so I was trying to sell them on kindness using appeals to the Bible. And they weren't having it. And I was like, all right, I don't want to get into a theological debate about what you must and must not believe, but come on. It's a well-established fact that Jesus was a pacifist. I mean, it's true. It's not just, speculation on my part. He was against violence, and people will always say, like, oh, well, he overturned in the temple the money changers. Yeah, okay, yep, you're not wrong. So the one time he got upset was actually a weird one, not gonna lie, because why in the world would you get upset at money changers? It probably had more to do with his anti-Roman feelings because, of the rend unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, that kind of a sentiment. See, I drop things like that in class all the time, and people do not get it, which is hilarious. Maybe I should stop referencing that altogether, referencing Christianity, because, those who believe it don't know it, and those who know it don't believe it. Anyway, there's something to wrap your head around. Put that on a cross stitch. Christianity. Those who believe it don't know it. Those who know it don't believe it. Anyway, regardless, I made appeals to Christianity. They were of no effect. And I pointed to my shelf of sacred texts. I have a number of sacred texts on a shelf, and I've got everything from the Church of the Subgenius, a very important religious movement in my book. And I have, things like Dianetics, a not very important religious movement that can come sue the pants off of me at any moment if I say anything too offensive or suppressive. Ooh, you're gonna get all suey on me and my 3 followers, huh? Come on. Come after me, Scientology. I want to see Tom Cruise jump on a couch. Anyway, bring all of Sea Org down. I don't give a crap. Ha, is a thing you can say when no one watches your channel. Anyway, regardless, the fact is, ladies and gents, I have a number of sacred texts, Christianity, Buddhism, fake ones like Scientology. I have Book of Mormon over there. Many different sacred texts. And even books on atheism and agnosticism, because I'm trying to represent both belief and non-belief, and all things, all points in between. And so I said, which of all the holy books on my shelf do you think you will find your particular philosophy in? And they had no answer because, of course, if they don't know their own holy book, what chance do you think they have of knowing the holy books of traditions they probably never heard of, let alone studied? And so they had no idea. So I went and got it off the shelf. And, of course, I grabbed the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey, because only in the Satanic Bible will you find the idea that selfishness is good. Well, no, I mean, I could bring out the works of Ayn Rand, but that would be a complete waste of time. They're so thick and poorly written, no one would want to read them. And I can say that as a person who has read everything she ever wrote, including her terrible play. Thank you very much. You know where to find me, Leonard Peikoff. Wait, is he still alive? It'd be lovely. Well, I would say it'd be lovely if he weren't. That's exactly. I'm a terrible missionary for my own ideas, ladies and gentlemen. Terrible. Perhaps the worst. Perhaps worse than me does not exist. And there's a rousing endorsement for students not to take me seriously. But yeah. So I cannot sell them on the concept of being kind to others, even when I am presenting to them the idea in a religious context, saying, hey, even from a religious point of view, most religions have this idea that humans ought to behave in altruistic manners that are, outside the scope of your personal benefit. Couldn't get students on board. Absolutely could not get them on board. they had no interest. And so, I've seen the outcomes of such a thing, and it's terrible, and it makes me very sad. It is what makes me weep for humanity. And I really hate that, and here's the plus side. As I've been rambling, as I've been playing Minecraft, I feel actually quite a bit better than I did previously. Why? Well, mostly because, there was one of my students that had gotten to me, and I hate that this student got to me. Like, I really and truly hate it because they do not deserve the real estate in my head. They have not earned a right. They'd have to work harder in my class before they would be worthy of such a thing. Anyway, this student has proven to be the most vile and vitriolic and ill-tempered and bad of all of my current students. Now, granted, remember when I said that some of my students are absolutely lovely. And you know what? I happen to really, really like my entire second hour. I always love my honors class. The students in there are just wonderful, wonderful people. And I always feel that way about them. Now, granted, some of my honors students are more wonderful than others, and that's to be expected. But I never have honors students that I'm like, ugh, this one, that's never happened. No, not even with the one. I did have an honors student who dropped my class because she absolutely hated how I drone on and on and on. Now, I don't know what she was talking about. I don't drone on and on and on. I get right to the point. Don't I, ladies and gentlemen? I started trying to say what I'm about to say, and it's only taken me an hour and 27 minutes to get to this point, the very precipice of making a point. Yes, I'm almost there. I might make a point before all is said and done. Be more hilarious if I never did. Anyway, when I started this, she was still, the student I'm thinking of was still occupying quite a bit of my mind. And it was just so upsetting because the student was mean. It wasn't just that they were unkind. It was that they were cruel. The kind of cruel where, one of the, I really love, for a while there, I used to listen to a lot of talks and things by the four horsemen of new atheism, as if, there were anything new that they were presenting, which is funny because that's what their Christian critics say. But I'm critical in different ways. Sam Harris has said new things, some of which I just really can't get on board with. Sorry, Sam. You've been one of my favorites up to this point. But anyway, so come on. I believe it was Dawkins who said the thing that I've now prefaced for so long that I can't remember what it was that he said. Cannot remember. It's escaped my mind entirely. It's absolutely outside of my head at the moment. But yes, I do believe I was going to make a point. I was going to try. Oh, yeah. Okay. One of the proofs that he gives for the non-existence of a just, merciful, and benevolent God in this universe is the existence of a certain parasitic type wasp, or wasp whose young are certainly parasitic. And anyway, he talks about these wasps, which, in order to lay their young, each organism on Earth that is vying for survival, they all have their own ways of achieving that goal. And so you could call it a cooperative thing that these wasps are doing, but they're doing it without the willing cooperation of the other animal involved, and they are doing it very much to the detriment of that animal as well. So, this ain't what we're talking about here. So yes, these wasps, what they will do is that they will sting these certain types of caterpillars so that the caterpillars are rendered immobile, not unfeeling. They've not been numbed. They are very often in what scientists assume is an excruciating amount of pain. And that's just where it kicks off. That is for starters, ladies and gents. Anyway, the terrible thing happens when the wasps lay eggs inside the caterpillar that they've now stunned. And the larva will grow inside the caterpillar and will, as a matter of fact, as part of their hatching, they will eat their way out of the caterpillar. But not only do they eat their way out, they do it in such a way that they preserve the caterpillar. They keep the caterpillar alive for as long as possible, like a Galapagos tortoise on an old seafaring ship, where they're like, oh yes, we're going to keep this tortoise on board, this majestic creature of which none of us are worthy. We're going to keep it on board so that we can eat it one piece at a time and have it remain alive as it is eaten piece by piece. A more terrible thing I cannot imagine. Anyway, so yeah, that is what these hornets do to these caterpillars. Their instinct tells the larvae, as they are hatching, how to eat this caterpillar without killing it. So imagine yourself stabbed, and then rendered completely paralyzed, and to have something lay its eggs in you. Those eggs grow, much to your discomfort and displeasure, grow like a tumor, and then that is excruciatingly painful. But when they hatch, they cannibalize you. Well, cannibalize, these are two different species, so they eat you. They eat you alive. Very much eat you alive. A terrible way to die by any measure. And, it is, whether or not you believe in God, a very troubling fact to learn about. To know that there are creatures on this earth that are so cold, callous, and unfeeling about the needs of others, that they would do such a thing. I mean, Dawkins also gives an example of cuckoo birds and how they operate. And, you can look that one up on your own time to know how insanely cruel nature can be. Well, this female student of mine, she's just mean. She's cruel. She's someone that at the outset of the year I thought I was going to need to spend extra time with to help. And as the semester has moved along, I want to spend as little time with the student as possible because they are so cruel, because they are so unfeeling, because they are so inhuman, and they do not seem to care about that. They do not care about my feelings. They do not care about what is right and what is wrong. I mean, if they go into business someday, they will make a literal killing, I have no doubt. They will make piles of money, and whatever their business is, it will probably add to the pain and suffering of millions. Sorry, these are ways that I feel. And this student is so very cruel in things that they said and did today. You know, here's a dumb one. Diamonds. I have these signs on my door that are held on with sticky tack. And the student peeled off a corner of one of my signs, took out her chewing gum, and stuck it to the sticky tack, and then replaced the sign. And did it out of spite. You know, didn't do it as like, oh, I don't know where to put my gum. Which, by the way, the trash can is right there. Like, literally right there. You know, by the door. Where the sign was that they put the gum on. Like a real jerk. You know, because that doesn't, you know, it doesn't hurt me in the way that a lot of things could. You know, you could do what freshmen normally do and break all this stuff in my classroom, and that would be very upsetting to me in a different way. But if one were to do what this student did, which is to just, you know, bring me an inconvenience that they know is going to be an inconvenience for me because I had to handle their gum, you know, because the cleaning staff isn't going to find stuff like that. They don't routinely clean behind the signs on my door that have been there for 7 years. You know, they don't do that. So I had to be the one to get the gum out from behind there. And that sounds a very small thing, right? Well, also consider that on the same day, the student talked a lot of crap about fellow students, was openly disrespectful to me on multiple occasions, and in addition to all this, you know, I run the GSA. That is my baby. That is my club that I fought long and hard to get. And now that we have it, I see so many jerks coming out of the woodwork to provide opposition to it for no reason. For no reason other than to just be jerks, as far as I can tell. And, you know, here's what that student did. And then there's a way that the other students responded, which was equally troubling. So, this student asked me if my club was still taking members. Now, I immediately was on guard because I assumed that this student would ask me that. so that they could point to someone in the classroom and say, see, they are taking new members. Go join them because you're gay. That's what I assumed she would do. Now, it would be terrible if I assumed the worst in her simply because I, assume the worst in all freshmen. No, I don't. I desperately want my freshmen to be good. As a matter of fact, last year's freshmen were lovely. My entire class, top to bottom, 100% lovely people. Enjoyed every single one of them. And, we started out distanced, but once we were back in person, I still liked them, and I liked them a lot. I really enjoyed them. They were lovely and great. So, it is not that I am incapable or undesiring of treating freshmen with respect and of enjoying them as students. No, that is not the case. It is simply not the case. But this student, so unfeeling, so uncaring, asked if my GSA were still taking new members. And I responded with a much more thorough response than they could have wanted. Because I figured, well, if I am wrong, and this person is asking if my club is actually taking new members, because they know someone who might actually want to be a member, then, of course, I want them to have information so that they can know what to tell this person. But I also want them to understand what will be expected of them if they were to join. And so I told her, well, the date is passed by which new members can join on the official rolls for the school. But we do have after-school meetings once a week, and here are those days and times. And here is what they need to know. If they come late, the door will already be locked because we have to maintain privacy, because there are those who question the need for our club to exist, or even worse, those who believe that our club is good subject matter for joking. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not that guy who's like, oh, you can't tell a gay joke. Of course you can. I do it all the time. But when I tell a gay joke, I don't tell a gay joke that hurts gay people. Because that's what I'm not on about. Now, granted, someone could choose to be hurt by something I say, even though it's not my intent. And I do try to create jokes in such a way that even gay people could laugh at them. As a matter of fact, here's a good example. When I got official approval for my club, I should pull up this text. I'll pull up the actual text that I sent. Because there was one of my students who had been waiting and hoping, who knew, was one of the first students I contacted when I was like, hey, I asked if we could have a GSA, and I wasn't told no. I was told, that sounds like a good idea. I want to make sure that we can do that in the right way at the right time. And so, very different from no. And so, anyway, ever since I was told that, there's a student who has been, just waiting and hoping and wishing and whatnot and planning and etc. And anyway, regardless, Yeah, but yeah, it is a student who just needed it and wanted it. Why? Well, because they don't get support like what we provide in this club. They do not get it at home. They want it at home, but they can't get it there. And it's something that I value a great deal as our purpose as a club, providing the service of being a support for people who need that support. It is absolutely important to me to do that. But with that said, I do love a good gay joke. What is, you know, a good gay joke is a gay joke that a gay person could laugh at. A gay person with a good sense of humor and sense that, like, not every joke about gay people is at the expense of gay people. If a gay person understands these things, the kind of joke that they would get and be like, oh man, that's funny. So yeah, with that in mind, I'm going to present you a text that I sent to someone who is themselves LGBTQ, someone who is part of the reason why we needed a club because of the number of times that they were targeted for hate speech and targeted for bullying and just terrible behavior on some of the other on the part of some of the other students, to the point where it just seemed like we needed this club to give these people who are people, humans, deserving of dignity and respect. We needed a club to give them the dignity and respect that they deserve, that they are not getting as they should from their fellow students. And so it's always been very important to me. But that said, good gay joke. And this one is a good gay joke because it's wildly offensive. So, well, wildly offensive. It's offensive. You decide how wild it is. So yeah, this is me texting a student who wants this club because they are in desperate need of the kind of support that this club would provide. This is the text message that I sent. And I quote, I just got official approval for the GSA from the principal. Please tell all the fruits, gaywads, queers, dykes, switch hitters, homos, pansies, femboys, poofters, buggers, fruitcakes, bottoms, queens, fruitcakes, queens, tops, bottoms, power bottoms, nuclear power bottoms, sodomites, bents, rug munchers, bears, twinks, fairies, gold stars, lipsticks, closet dwellers, flamers, and, parentheses, God, I hope we have them, Gaysians. Now, you would think that kind of a statement would be wildly offensive, would you not? You send this to someone who identifies as LGBTQ and openly has told you many times in the past that they do not receive the support that they would like at home for their LGBTQ ways. And that they wish they did, the student who, in seeing the way that I interact with my LGBTQ child, has openly just expressed envy at that, and so this is someone that I know very well, And this is someone who knows that I do not have the hate in my heart that such terms would seem to represent. I can send them this message. And it's funny because I didn't tell my wife that that's what I was sending. Well, I didn't tell her before I sent it. I told her after. and she was wondering if they would get it in the way that I intended it. And yeah, all of the texts that I got back that day were like, "Oh man, you can't say that," which would seem to indicate that my wife was right. Right? You can't say that is what I get texts back. I mean, perhaps I can't. I'm not a member of the LGBTQ community. I am simply an ally of that community. And so what are my rights in terms of being able to joke about this? Well, as it turns out, as long as it is known that I am joking and that there is no vitriol, no hate in my heart, that everything I say is something that is intended for humor and not for oppression and hate, then it's okay. And we all had a good laugh about it. And quite frankly, so my students were so lovely. And this is the kind of thing where I feel petty to have spent hours, because I spent hours just being very bitter at this one student who is so particularly vile to me today in many ways. I'm not going to list all of them because that would take all frick night. You're just going to have to be left with the possible thought that I'm out of torches. With the possible thought that I am very petty because, I won't fully explain what I mean. And as a result, you'll be there thinking, okay, did he just get mad at a student for, something that wasn't even that big of a deal? And then he was talking about allowing an asteroid to obliterate humanity and that not being bad. Like, is that what we just endured 2 hours of, 2+ hours of? I don't know, maybe. Shoot. You make a better episode. You think you can. You can. You definitely can. Anyone. Just shoot 5 minutes of yourself with watery diarrhea. Just sweating and groaning, moaning and howling. Yeah, just get 5 minutes worth of that footage. You laying a greasy film on the top of the water in your bathroom, just, laying down an oil slick that is precisely as flammable as the one that was burning earlier this week in the actual ocean. Anyway, regardless, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, if you don't have hate in your heart, then you don't have you do earn yourself the ability to joke about some of these things with people who have that understanding, because here's what actually happens. So I got those texts that was like, oh, you can't say that. And then a day or so later, one of these students had they had been or they FaceTimed me, actually. This was over the summer. And I told them that our air conditioner had just gone out, which it had, and this was over a holiday weekend. And so we were not sure that we were going to be able to get someone out to service our air conditioner, which is, in these times of great climate change. Um, and when I say great, I can't believe I had to explain this to a student this week, but great doesn't just mean like great, it also means quite large or very important. And they did not realize that. And I was like, so when you hear a term like the Great Depression, you think that historians are being sarcastic, like, oh, this depression is great. Like, what? How do words sound when they hit your head? I really need to know. Like, we need to do a study on this. Like, what goes on in your brain when you hear common phrases? Anyway, jeez. So, yeah, I'm losing track of my own thought processes. No, okay. So, uh, I, anyway, student FaceTimes me. During this FaceTime, I tell them that, air conditioner is out, and they're like, oh man, that sucks. And I was like, well, we're trying to get a hold of somebody. In the meantime, the sad part is that we're, running out of otter pops, I said, which was true. I mean, we were running out of otter pops, but we were also thinking about the possibility that, like, we've done this before. If your AC goes out, getting a hotel room for the night just for the AC so that you can, have the repairman out in the morning. Arizona people know. I wonder what percentage of the hotel industry in Arizona is due to air conditioning repair. Because it is going to be a non-insignificant amount. That much is for dang sure, which is hilarious. Anyway. So I just mentioned this, and then pretty soon these students, most of whom had never been to my house, but one who had because they had watched our pets when we were gone. They showed up on our doorstep, and these are mostly drama and honors students of mine, which my drama students are always fantastic, and my honors students are always the best. And so it would be a very different thing, and this is a point I attempted to make earlier in the evening, but failed because I started talking about something else instead that was infinitely less important. But when you're a teacher, however you leave the day, whatever your fourth hour is, and however your fourth hour goes, or your seventh hour if you have, that length of a day, whatever your last hour of the day is, that's how you feel that your teaching day went. And so, interestingly, you could have first and second hour lighting the place on fire and a fight in third hour, and then you get to fourth hour and they're all sitting quietly and hanging on your every word during your instruction, and then all working well and completely on task and focused during the independent practice portion of the day, and yet you will feel like an absolute failure if your fourth hour is not good. And if your fourth hour is good, even if your other hours were questionable and terrible, you will feel like, oh, this was all right because I had a good fourth hour. This is how that goes. It's very dumb. Because what I'm about to tell you is that, some students were so very sweet with me that not only are they contacting me over the summer, not for any like, I need to know what's happening with the play or anything like that, but contacting me in a hey, how you doing kind of a way, and that is what. Wait, did I? No. Uh, yeah, that's what I should feel good about. That's what I should focus on. But for so long today, that's not what I was thinking about. That's not what I was focusing on. Because there's someone in my midst who is so very cruel. But yeah, anyway, these students, they showed up at our house. They gave us Otter Pops. They gave us 2 big boxes of Otter Pops. They, played with our children for a minute. We're so lovely with them. They went and saw all of our animals, so all 4 cats, 2 bearded dragons, and the tortoise. And they were just so lovely and had a lovely time, and that was amazing. But the whole time that they were there, they were laughing and joking about this text message that I had sent. Because 2 of the people that had come, sorry, my throat is so dry. 2 of the people who had come to my house are people who would have directly benefited from having a GSA. One of whom was the first, trans female student to be transitioning in our school's history, and, a person for whom a lot of special provisions had to be made, and a person who endured a lot of, negative talk from a lot of terrible students. This is someone who very much would have benefited from GSA, from having a support system there, and they, there we go. So yes, this person who, would have benefited so very much, they thought it was hilarious. They were like, yes, we need t-shirts that say, God, I hope we have them Gaysians. Which, like, by the way, I would absolutely love it if we had gay Asian students. We've had so very few Asian students. It'd be nice to have more Asian students. And if they were gay, well, then I'd see them a lot more often because they'd be in my club. So what... win-win. What's not good about that scenario? Anyway, but yeah, we were all having a laugh about this thing that I wrote, which was, just basically a top 10 list of worst gay slurs. Well, not some, a lot of them aren't slurs. I mean, like, twinks call themselves twinks and bears call themselves bears. Those are not offensive terms, and so yeah, that's a different thing. But a lot of the other terms are like because the student, their first question, they were like, do you know that dyke is an offensive term? And I'm like, yeah, I know. I am 100% aware. I know what I said. Because this is one of my favorite types of humor, juxtaposition, I'm giving you the good news that we are finally going to have a support group for all of these LGBTQ kids that, administration, like one of the questions they asked was like, if we had a GSA, how many kids do you think would be in it? And it's funny because, his estimate was like 3 or 4. My estimate was like 20. and my student's estimate was 50. And I think 50 would be accurate if we were if we didn't have people in other clubs, because some people had to choose between the GSA and another club that they really, really wanted to be in for various reasons. So, yeah, like, it's fine. Um, boop, badoop, badoop. Uh, anyway, but yeah, we probably are closer to 50 in our school. And, yeah, like, we do provide a valuable service, and it's lovely. And I'm like, it's funny because I really, really like and care about all of these LGBTQ students. And the thing is, like, you could say, well, oh, is it that you care about them more than your straight students? No, it's not that. Like, not that at all. My straight students are not as vulnerable. You know, it's like when you know things like 41% of trans people will attempt suicide in their lifetime. There's a fun fact. You know, I have multiple trans students. And so, how am I to feel about the fact that, you know, if left to their own devices with their complete lack of a support system, you know, there's a chance that one of my transgendered students might attempt and possibly even succeed at suicide. You know, I'm not okay with that. Not okay with that at all. Like, I had a friend who committed suicide in high school, and if we could avoid that, that would be lovely. That was a painful experience for many reasons. And, you know, I didn't appreciate at the time what a trying time for my faith that was, but it certainly was. How do you feel in the face of something tragic like that? Anyway, regardless, if I were able to save so much as one student, then it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. Because, you know, the suicide of a single student is a suicide too many. And it's not just problems of suicide. It's saving a kid's self-esteem, saving a kid's sense of worth. That is worth saving. I absolutely believe that. So, you know, there have been some things, like, for example, immediately after our first meeting, you know, one of my other students who is not in the GSA noticed that there was one student who attended that meeting. They're the only ones who have an easy inside window into who is and is not attending. But because it's a drama class, you figure, you know, that the straight kids will be cool with the gay kids because they're all in drama together. Anyway, so, yeah, one of my drama kids said something really, really hurtful and offensive to one of my other drama kids, you know, immediately after. And this is to a kid who is not out publicly, is not out with their family, and is certainly not out with most of their friends, and definitely not out to the entire school. And so, you know, to have themselves, you know, to have the kind of just mean-spirited gay slur thrown at them indicating that, like, oh, not only do I know your dirty secret, but I think it's terrible, and I think you should feel bad about it. You know, ugh, what a terrible thing to do to another human being. And I was really upset about that. And, you know, we did get to the bottom of that, but like, it made me feel good because my GSA mobilized immediately. They're like, who is it? How can we help them? You know, which is exactly what an organization like this needs. So anyway, we've addressed that situation. I take you back to my freshman classroom where the student who was so terrible that she remained in my thoughts even as I went home for the weekend to enjoy time with my wife, my children, and to not think about, you know, petty little freshmen who piss me off so much because they are so mean and unkind and unwilling to even attempt to be kind. You know, not a person who is deserving of any portion of my weekend. Certainly not. And yet, a portion of my weekend was spent on this child because they pissed me off so much. So, they asked me, are you still taking people into your GSA? And I gave them the long answer. I gave them the long answer on purpose, so that if they were to continue in what I thought they were going to do, they would have to do it in spite of me. They would have to do it knowing that I have just given you a little talk about what my club is and why I believe in its purpose. And I thought there's no way. There's no way that this student, after I, instead of just saying, nope, you can't, which I think back now and I'm like, maybe that's what I should have said. But then they probably would have been like, oh, well, would have found something to say about that as well. I can imagine what they might have said. Because, remember, they're mean-spirited and terrible. Anyway, so, yeah. This student asked the question, are you still taking people? And I gave a long response in which I included meeting times, days of the week in which we were meeting, and, you know, some of the requirements for being a member. Some of the requirements is that you keep other people's information private, number one. And number two, that you do not bully anyone. This is unacceptable. Well, apparently, some people did not get the bullying is unacceptable memo. Because after I explain in great detail what my club is and why it's important and why it matters, and how I am willing to take anyone who is serious about needing the kind of support that we are prepared to provide. I take all my time to do this, to explain it. And I assume that she is going to turn to another student in the classroom and be like, haha, you're gay, you should join the club. After all I said, a part of me was like, no one is that callous. No one is that cruel. No one is that unkind. You should assume better of people. And when given the chance, she was exactly that cruel. And the interesting thing was she said it to one of her friends. And so I was not concerned about her friend's sense of self-esteem. I was concerned about her lack of empathy, basic human decency. Because you are asking the president, or not the president, the sponsor of an organization that is there to provide a safe space for the very people that you are making such light times of and such fun of. Later that same day, she would use the word gay in the pejorative. That's gay. Right? And so, yeah, I just feel such hate from this child. Not toward this child. Toward this child, I have frustration for a number of reasons, but not hate. Not hate. No, that is their thing. You know, because they take something that is necessary for people to be who they are and to not fear people like her taking lightly and belittling others who have nothing to do with us in the first place, and using our existence to belittle them. That is so callous and so cruel that it is shameful that it came from a member of my species. I wish I could disown them from the species, given how very, very awful it was. I don't know that I want to be a part of a human race that creates and supports such things. And yet it does. And yet so many people think it's normal. And so many people think it's funny. And so many people think it's good. But it is none of these things. Remember, this is from the man who can joke in a rude way about gay people. But guess what? I knew my audience. When our children asked us, like my daughter, my son doesn't seem to care for permission or anything of the sort. But my daughter, like, she has this weird thing where she wants to rebel, but she also wants permission to rebel, and she wants to know that if she rebels, that nothing bad is coming her way. You know, so she wants to be able to say swear words and things. And what I told her is, I'm like, I'm not going to give you permission to swear because you might abuse it. But I will teach you how to swear, and I will teach you how to know when it's okay to swear. And I told her that it's okay to swear when you understand the word that you're using. Number one, don't just say things to say things. Know what you are saying. So 2 things. Know what the words mean before you say them, number 1. And number 2, know the impact that they will make on the people you say them to. Now, the student who is so rude today absolutely knew the meaning of the words that she was using, but she did not know the impact. She didn't know how much time I would spend thinking about what kind of parenting, what kind of societal pressures, what kind of, expectations for what it means to be cool in the here and now, what kind of pressures, internal, external, create the kind of hate and spiteful behavior that produce that as a result. Because I do not want it. I don't want it to be a part of my race. I don't want it to be a part of my class. I don't want it to be a part of what it means to be human. To be human should not be to be cruel to others simply because you can be. And that is what this girl does on a regular basis, not just today, but constantly. And I do not respect her for it. And quite frankly, I have serious doubts about my ability to teach this person without also completely loathing them and everything they stand for. Oh, I'll teach her, and I will give her a grade because she deserves it, because I will not stoop to her level, because I will not assume that anyone else is worthy of the kind of bitter, nasty, vile, awful things that she has in her heart toward people who did her no wrong. I could go on. I don't think I need to. Because you should know and you should understand it's not just that someone took an opportunity to be like, haha, you're gay. People do that a lot, and it's unfortunate. And yes, that is a terrible gay joke. Haha, you're gay. I've never seen an iteration of that was any good. But it's not just that. It's the fact that I showed her I'm taking your questions seriously. I am giving you the actual information you asked for. Now that you know that I'm not setting you up for a joke, are you still going to attempt to tell a goddamn joke? Oh, you are? Well, good luck to the human race if this is what it's producing these days. If this is what it's producing, I do not know if we are worth saving. And it really actually, you think I'm kidding. You think I'm being melodramatic. It really actually takes that amount of hope out of my heart. You heard me talk about students that I love very much. You heard me talk about students who brighten my day and make it all seem like what I do is worthwhile. You know that I love my students, if you know anything about me. For me to talk about a student and say that their behavior is abominable and is the sort of thing that ought to bring about the very end of our race. I want you to know how very much I mean that. It is not just a bad joke. It was the lack of respect. It was the lack of dignity. When I was in high school, I had a friend named Billy. Billy, if you're out there, you're a lovely person. I'd love to hear from you, although I don't know how that would happen. I'm not on social media. Well, no, I'm on Instagram, but if you message me there, I will not respond. It's part of my Instagram policy. Only out-of-focus pictures, non sequitur captions, and do not follow anyone, and do not respond to any comment on any picture ever. So, yeah, so far so good, by the way. I have, I don't know, some followers, I don't know how many, and I get some likes, which is baffling, and I get some comments too, and I have not responded to a single one. Not even when my mother stumbled upon my Instagram and was like, what is this? What is happening and why? I did not respond to her there. I waited until I was in person next, and I was like, okay, here's why you're seeing what you're seeing. And yeah, she still doesn't get it, but at least she knows that it wasn't because I was refusing to talk to her about any of this. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, like, I do so very much care for and love and respect and admire some of my students. They are so wonderful, and I wish that you could know them. And I wish that you could see what it's like from a teacher's perspective when you see students achieving their potential. It's magnificent. I wish you could see that. I wish I could see anything other than this wall. Sorry, sometimes I get so caught up in what I'm saying I forget to Minecraft, which I've been doing for the better part of an hour now. Ladies and gentlemen, I do wish you could see what we see. But you never are. You'd have to be one of us to know. And it is wonderful. It is wonderful when it's going well. When it is not, it is going so very badly that it is hard to capture just how badly. Coincidentally, it's the reason why so many of your teachers are medicated for depression. Haha. I've asked a few of them just randomly, like, hey, you're not. Like, yes, I am. And it's like, oh, yep, that makes sense, I guess. You know? Like, I don't ask them directly. I just sort of lay it out there and be like, well, you know, I got medicated for depression and anxiety, and it's been very helpful getting medicated, you know. And then if they are also medicated for depression and anxiety, then they will be like, oh, me too. You know, it's not that I'm like, what are you on, Zoloft? You know, like, just creeping up on people. What is it? Tell me. Do you have venlafaxine? Come on. Anyway, nah, that's never happened. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad that I reminded myself how much I enjoy the students that I enjoy, so that, you know, when I talk about a student who is so very rude and unfeeling, and just mean spirited. And the fun thing is that it was mean spirited to me as well as the student she was saying it to, as well as the entire LGBTQ community at this school. Because earlier in class, she asked me in a weird way. She's like, I want to show you a picture, and I don't like want to know, but like I wonder, and I want to like know. And I was weirded out by that. It was one of the first things she said to me when she came in. And she had a picture of one of my students who, we had a pep rally today. And one of my students, a male student, wore a French maid outfit. Pink French maid outfit. Complete with gloves and cat ears, the whole 9 yards. Welcome to the Kitty Cat Cafe, where we're cute as kittens. Yeah, I did the hands. You think I'm going to say these words and not do the hands? Anyway, are you here for the gamer discount? Anyway, so, ladies and gentlemen, yes, I had a student who dressed like that, a male student dressed like that at a pep rally, and played the bass drum in the band where everybody could see him, where he was making the loudest noise in the room. And yeah, because he doesn't care, doesn't bother him. He has a pretty good idea of who he is, at least in terms of like his approach to life and, what he thinks is fun. And very much a drama kid thing to do. Anyway, but yeah, she was asking who the student was. Not because she thought, oh, what a silly goose, being the way he is, or anything of the sort. I got the feeling that there was something nefarious behind that. Not that I think she's going to go out of her way to bully this kid, but that, like, so that she would have a name to put with the person that she thinks is so far below her. This is what it, because, she's apparently cute and she's apparently a big deal and people give a crap because, she's a big deal. Don't you get it? And yeah, I don't give a crap. That sort of stuff has no cachet with me. Like, I'm less concerned with that than anything I could think of. Those trees are very parallel. Anyway, yeah, I don't give a crap about that. That's never mattered to me. It does not matter to me. And, yeah. But I know that she thinks that she's better than this student. That was the sense I got coming back. Was that she felt like she was really and truly better than this student. And it's like, in what way? And the fact that, like, people see what you do and it makes them laugh and it makes them happy. Because what you do makes you think that you're funny. I tell you this, the student that she called gay didn't laugh, didn't think it was funny. So what? What was the point? The point was this constant assertion of like, no, I'm better. No, I'm more valid. Me, my way, the way I think about it. Everything about me is more valid and is better than all of this. And, I said it today, and I saw it get in her craw, because I was like, if someone's gay, how does that affect you? I said it'd be one thing if every gay person were hitting on every straight person, but I didn't, like, we don't have that. That is not the current scenario. I mean, if it were, I would feel very flattered. But, it is not currently happening. Sorry, it's not happening. Anyway. Oh, what? Oh, what? I forgot to get pickaxes. Anyway. But yeah, I gotta close this out, people. I'm losing my mind. Students are being terrible to each other, and I hate it. And like, there have been so many things this year. I had a student this morning who was like, I don't know what to do. Some people want to fight me. And I'm like, why? And they're like, I don't even know. I don't even know why they want to fight me. But I don't want to fight for any reason. That's the first thing I saw. The first thing I encountered this morning when I walked in was a student who was like, can I come talk to you in your classroom, to tell me that people wanted to fight her, and that she didn't even know who these people were, but just word had gotten around that people wanted to fight her. It's like, why? Why is this happening? That's the first thing I deal with. And, I dealt with multiple other just terrible things. Rotten attitudes, just piss poor behavior from, several students. Not in my drama class, not in my honors class, but I have other things. I have a homeroom. I have a homeroom, and I have a we had an assembly today, and so I saw a lot of the students in the assembly, and a lot of them were making terrible choices. Anyway, people, let me close this out. I have a hard time having faith in humanity when I think about the things this one student did. I'm sorry that I'm not better at focusing on those students who give me faith in humanity because of their dedication, because of their hard work, because of their smart little brains that are so eager and willing to learn things. I need to be appreciative of them. I need to be appreciative of those weird freaking drama students, the weird kids. I love the weird kids the most. I do. Because what was I when I was in high school? I was a weird kid. I spent a lot of my time trying to provide a safe space for the weirdest kids on campus. And I will consider it my greatest legacy. Obviously a legacy of my career, not necessarily legacy of my life. I do have children. But my greatest legacy of my career, to provide a safe space for those people, the people that are outcasts everywhere else they go. Yeah, if I can provide a safe space for them, then I've done something worth doing. And anyone who wants to intentionally hurt those people for dumb, selfish, blind, arrogant, ridiculous reasons, fie on them. Fie. Oh, I'll teach them, but fie on them. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this episode. I'm I'm sorry that it wasn't any good. And I'm sorry that it was so very self-serving and long-winded. If you've actually watched this, first of all, tell me if you have a Steam account. I'll give you a Steam game. That's always a thing that I do. I mean, yeah, you can get yourself a free Steam game just for saying so. But are you going to say so? We'll see. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode, Riff and Craft, with Rem Pemberton, a man who intends well, means well, wants to be kind, wants to see a kinder world around him, consistently fails in his own attempts to be more kind, but even so continues to recognize the importance of kindness. Ladies and gentlemen, I am that Rem Pemberton. This has been Riff and Craft. And I hope that you are kind. I hope that you are good. And I hope that you are happy. Or at least satisfied. It might be better than happy. Check the research. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this one. We will see you in the next one. Okay. Bye.